Today we're going for a ride. Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Brick. My name is Mike and today I'm happy to review the Dom's Dodge Charger. That's the Dodge Charger from the Fast and Furious series, set number 42111, based on the 1970 Dodge Charger RT. This beauty has 1077 pieces. Some people like it, some people don't, depending on if you like the muscle cars, which I do. And I'm gonna try to answer some questions in this review regarding the value of this set. The LEGO Group has sent this set for me to review, so thank you so much to the LEGO Group for providing the copy for the review, but of course my own opinions are entirely honest and entirely my own. And before we dive deeper into the building of this set and answer all these questions, I want you guys to check out the links below, especially for the Beyond the Brick merch store. That's right, you can get the t-shirts like the one on me, or the mugs, like the one behind me, which is a great way to support the channel if you like our content. You can also find the links to my own channel, The Cool Factor. I do LEGO videos, what do you know? And also there's things like subscription, likes, or even dislikes, and there is the bell button if you want to get notified for the new videos from ours. Alright, blabbering, blabbera, we're gonna just open this box and get right into the building. Dom's Dodge Charger. In the box you will find 8 bags in total with sections numbered 1 to 4, 4 tires for the Charger, a solid frame of Technic just as a loose piece to start off the build, and a packed manual with a sticker set right inside, so the manual is nicely secured, it won't bend, and it's actually pretty hefty. Well, nothing smells better than a fresh printed booklet. I was in the printing industry, so I can tell that I really like the smell. But without further ado, I want to really jump into this set and see what it's all about. Alright, see you on the other side. The set is finished after about 3 hours of work time. It was quite complex, I gotta say, especially the mechanism responsible for moving the wheels in the front and the suspension take a bit of time because of all these small elements and bins and whatnot. So in terms of Technic building, this is not the most easy set to build for sure. Before I look at the car's features, I want to take a look at the manual. It has some features that I like. It's a bit different than your usual manual. It doesn't really have the features in the front like you are used to in such manuals, so there is no lore, just basically start off with the build straight up from the first page. And after 226 pages of building, you get to the Fast and Furious commercial and just shots of the car and the features. So there is not really a lore behind it. Usually you would get a few words from the designers, a few words from the about the lore, about the Fast and Furious, about maybe Dom Toretto, but here you just have a comparison with the real car, some Rebuild the World, pretty funny commercial of LEGO, and just the iterations of the Dodge Charger among different parts of the Fast and Furious. As you can see, this set is based on the Fast and Furious 1, And you can see all the different cars from Fast and Furious 4, 5, 6, and up to Fast and Furious 8. So I find it kind of weird. Usually LEGO takes their time and effort to show some cool lore, write a few good words in the manual. This one has no words. Maybe that was what the licensing was agreed upon. But yeah, it's a bit different than your usual manual about a certain licensed element. How does the car look? It looks good, but only if you like the muscle cars. Many people would say it's a bit boxy, it's a bit, you know, there's a lot of angles that are too straight here and there, I would say. But for me, I like muscle cars. I do like Chargers, I do like Mustangs, I do like big Camaros and things like that. So being in California, I see quite a few of these versions. Maybe not exactly this version, but I see quite a few Chargers and Challengers. In California, Dodge is quite a popular brand here, so these are quite a common sight where I live. So I do appreciate them on the streets and I do like them. So this car was kind of like a nice choice to build for me. Taking a closer look at the front, you can see the iconic Charger look from the 1970s. This is based on the 1970 Dodge Charger RT. And I think the first thing you would notice that you may not like as much is that the lights are sitting on blue Technic pins. I'm not sure why they did not choose the gray ones. The rotary ones, they would move a bit more, but they would look just better with the transparent brick that is representing the lights. I think the blue sticks out too much in that matter, and the lights are the most iconic elements of the Charger, so not the best choice here, I would say. But the sticker used for the Charger logo and the grille is actually working pretty well. Is kind of like in depth within the brick built front of the Charger, and I like that fact. So in that matter, I think the front looks pretty good. Just those blue pins are not the best choice. You can also see the clearance from the ground is quite high. It feels with the suspension that this set is providing, it almost feels like it's a 4x4 vehicle. There's a lot of clearance, and I think that's even a bit too much. It's meant to be a bit springy of a car, because Doms is using it as sort of like a muscle car with way too much power, and it really jumps off, as you have seen in the movies. But the clearance and the suspension work great, but I think it's just too much. You have suspension in the front and suspension in the back, so it's actually a great looking function, but I think just the springs have too much travel in my humble opinion. So just something to notice for sure. And also, you can tell that the car could use some good custom rims. It only has the normal Technic wheels, and actually the axle of the wheels sticks out just a bit too much for my liking, and there are no covers to it, there are no extra things to hide that sticking part of the axle through the wheels. So with that, such a licensed set, such an iconic set from such an iconic lore of the movies, I think custom rims like the ones presented in the manual on the actual Dom's Charger would be pretty nice. These just do not look good for, well, such a great element of this car as wheels. Wheels give a lot of looks, and this is not present in this set, unfortunately. Also, the front is the house of the V8 engine with Supercharger. And as you can see, when I move the car, the timing belt actually moves. It is a fake enclosure here. This cog is connected to the main drivetrain, which is responsible for moving the pistons in the V8. As you can see, the Supercharger is just a decorative element, so nothing really moves here, but it does work pretty well, and the whole mechanism is basically connected to the rear wheels, which I'm gonna be showing later in this review. But it works pretty well. There is no friction, there is no bad extra tension to it. It just works fine, and the belt moves right with the drivetrain. As you open the hood, you can see the hood is a bit canted, so it has a great shaping to it, and it all uncovers the V8 engine. Again, closer look at the pistons moving and the whole timing belt situation. It's a quite a challenging build, I gotta be saying that, because, you know, sometimes you just build those pistons and they take a bit of time. Once you finish this, it's satisfying to see how this all works and how the whole mechanism inside the car comes together to move the engine. There is a lot of gaps, of course. It shines through the chassis of the car, so there is no real floor for the car. It has some also, I think this is maybe just a steering wheel mechanism that I think holds the steering wheel. It's fake, by the way. You'd have no steering in this car. But yeah, nothing else here, just a massive V8 that takes all this space. I wish there was some sort of like a cover actually to have those gaps less visible than they are. But, well, here we are. And moving to the side, you can see how the window construction is made. These are just some fake window framing here. It doesn't look necessarily that good, honestly. There's a big gap between the frame of the windshield and the frame of this little triangle that Dom has in his car. The flexi-tube is used to emphasize the shaping of the whole chassis, so it actually adds a bit of the looks, because those angles in just black Technic would look a bit weird. And the door is actually built pretty well. I just don't like the fact that the pins stick out here just a bit, but you can see there's only one seat for the driver, Dom Toretto. It is a sport cube seat, and the steering wheel is an oversized one. You can see if I can take it off to show you. An oversized steering wheel that doesn't have any other function. It's just a cosmetic item at this point. Here we can also take a look at the cage that the car is supplied with. It has some crossbars, vertical crossbars, to actually make the roof not bend. It's actually working pretty well, so sort of like a sport rally cage in there. Nothing else. There is no dashboard. You can see there's a lever inside that we're gonna get into in a second, but it's very scarce of an interior, but you know, you'd expect that in a Technic set pretty much. The other side is housing a fire extinguisher. Somebody said it's a nose tank, but it's not a nose tank. These are in the trunk, you're gonna see in a second, but this is a fire extinguisher. You can change the angle, and I'm not sure if you can see, but there is a lever in there that you can engage. And here is the disadvantage of this set. This lever has a very special function, but it's really tough to get it in there. It's really tough to control it because the roof is non-removable, and I even broke something right now, adjust the wheel. But yeah, that lever is responsible for engaging the hoppity, because that's how I call it. It's basically a set of Technic crossbeams to make the car go like that, just like in that iconic scene when Doms is really using all the horsepower on the rear wheels. But yeah, this function is really hardly accessible without opening the door or doing anything like that. You can disengage and engage, it clicks in place, but the easiest way I found doing it is just doing it that way. But if you do it that way, it doesn't lock in place. You have to like really make sure it locks in place. Now it doesn't even lock in place. See, so actually you have to push that lever to make it work, which I find to be not the best way to play with the set. It's a great way to display the set that way, of course, but it's not really meant to be played with, I guess, when you are trying to just zoom in your room, if I may. But yeah, this doesn't work very well. It's hardly accessible. As we're looking in the interior, you can also see the elements of the steering mechanism. The thing in the back, the cog in the back here, is responsible for steering the front wheels, so that's why the actual steering wheel doesn't work. It works pretty well. Very satisfying snappity function. The whole crossbeam goes throughout the entire car. So I think we're getting some sort of a compromise here. We're getting front and rear suspension and steering in the back, instead of maybe no suspension and steering in the steering wheel. So I'll take that. I think it's okay, especially when the windows are so small. It's hard to reach even the lever inside, so it will be hard to reach the steering wheel as well. So I think that's why they decided upon having the steering in the back of the car and adding both ways suspension to just, you know, have a good compromise of functions, looks, and overall fun with the set. And moving to the rear of the car, you can see how the panel work is being done. You can also notice that there is basically no rear window of the car. I mean, Chargers have this really low-lying roof. The whole look of the car is taken by the massive cubical chassis. But here, it doesn't look that bad, except that cog that is responsible for steering kind of sticks out. You gotta admit that it sticks out where in the place where the rear window is supposed to be. But the panels overall kind of hide it in a way that it does give you this decent look. These panels here are also responsible for the shaping of the rear of the chassis of the car. I like that look, kind of. I think it looks very aggressive and kind of cool. And also in their back, you do have the opening trunk. And I think I noticed that the rear lights were kind of broken off, but you can see they're basically sitting in form of that panel attached to the crossbeam that is holding the license plate. By the way, that license plate is taken straight from the movie, so exactly how it is in the movie. And in the trunk, you have nothing else but two nitrous oxide tanks with sticker on them. So that's where Dom gets extra firepower, if I will, in that monster of a car. Basically, same thing as with the front. I do like the addition of the brick built elements to the back and to the front of the car. The panels and the cornered tiles are actually looking pretty well, and they just do a great transition from bricks to Technic pieces. You can see also some pipes here to emphasize that look. So yeah, front and back are actually very, very matching. And I like that fact. I like that they went that route, so it's a great merge of the classic brick and Technic building techniques. Plus you have two exhaust pipes for the car, and maybe let's take a look at the suspension just before we finish this review. Yep, the look at the mechanism and the suspension. So you can see they do have two coils on each side of the car, front and back, and you can see also the massive mechanism that's responsible first for steering. There's a differential here to make the wheels engage the cogs. The whole thing moves in the middle and engages the front wheels when you actually steer the car. And also those cogs are responsible for moving the pistons in the engine and that fake timing belt as well. Overall, the chassis looks solid as you would expect from a Technic set. And one thing that you would notice here perhaps as I'm taking this shot right now is this licensing sticker. I think from the licensor of this car. That's not something I ever seen in a Technic set. I think that was the sort of like, I don't know, agreement between LEGO and the licensor to add this sticker. It's probably optional, but it does tell you in the instructions to add it here. So basically you make it as like a die-cast model with a sticker applied to it that says how the set is licensed and who is the actual owner. So there you go, the Dodge Charger RT from 1970 from Fast and Furious. Do I like it? Well, let's do some conclusion, and that means return to the studio. I think in the end I like it more than I used to when I saw the pictures first. I was on the sort of like dislike side of it, but I do like muscle cars, so I think it appeals to me in that certain way. I was on the advocate of this set not being a creator expert set. I wanted this to be a creator expert set more. This lot was taken by the Fiat 500 this year, about this around this time frame when this was released. And yes, I think the closest comparison we would have to this set right now in the LEGO terms would be the LEGO Creator Ford Mustang, which happens to be my basically top 3 of favorite sets of all time at this point. I love Mustangs, I love muscle cars, I had a blast reviewing that set. Back in the day, the Mustang is one of the best cars and best sets overall, I think, in LEGO. And does Dodge Charger live up to that? I'm not sure. If it was a creator set, then I would have a good comparison, but it's different. You know, I think with the limitations that Technic is offering, you know, Technic gives great functionality, but has less looks appeal in many cases, with a few exceptions, like the 1:8 scale Technic, like the Chiron or the GT3 RS. But the Charger is somewhere in between. It looks okay. It has some functions. It took some compromises to actually maybe add extra suspension like you can see, but maybe not steering in the steering wheel. I don't know what was the deal here, but I think with the compromises they have taken, it looks okay. It's a licensed set, so probably they had some limitations or guidelines from the licensor of this set, so that's why it kind of feels different as a set overall. It's sort of like the situation with the Top Gear rally car from Technic as well. So I guess I can compare these two in one way or another when it comes to like how the set came to be. But overall, I don't think the hate was well deserved for this set. Yes, it is blocky, it looks like a box. It won't be appealing to a person who doesn't understand or doesn't like muscle cars. I like muscle cars, maybe because I'm living in California and I see them every day on the street. And I see one parked right now next to my apartment, a Dodge Challenger, if you will. And I like them. The more I look at them, the more I like them, and I think this set captured it pretty well. It seems like they could have made it better, like with the rims. Custom rims for such an iconic car would have been a nice thing to have, and maybe some, less gaps here and there and things like that. But overall, I think they pulled it off, and if you are a Fast and Furious fan, you probably already have this set. If you are a Dom Toretto or Vin Diesel fan, you probably have this set. If you're just a car fan in general, you may really strongly consider this set, and I think that's not gonna be something that you're gonna be disappointed about. The pricing is alright, it's not over expensive, even though it's a licensed set, and I think in that matter, many people will pick it up, and it's gonna, of course, stay on the shelf for people who are not really into cars or into Fast and Furious at all. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I had a blast building it. It's a challenging set, but it's fun and satisfying in the end. I had so much fun with it, and it's actually gonna look cool on the shelf. I think it's gonna look pretty decent. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you can check the links below for my own channel, The Cool Factor. You can also check out the BTB, Beyond the Brick merch store. You can click the like or dislike. You can subscribe. You can click the bell button. You can do all these things that YouTubers like me ask you to do. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. It was Mike, and I hope to see you next time on Beyond the Brick. Bye!